Welcome, everybody, to Postgame Takeaways with Inside ND Sports. I'm Tyler James. He's the one and only Eric Hansen, and we're here to share our postgame takeaways from Notre Dame's 23-10 victory over Georgia. Eric, what was your biggest takeaway from this momentous win in the college football playoff quarterfinal?
That Notre Dame's defense worked a lot better than your internet does. Just kidding.
One of these days, you're going to get used to bad hotel Wi-Fi and not laugh every time it happens.
You know what I was most impressed is the way Notre Dame handled everything from the delay caused by the tragedies, how they kept everything in perspective, how they used that time wisely. And then they just were so aggressive in the game. And then after the game, it wasn't like, oh, we won a major bowl for the first time in 30 years. It's like, okay, what can this turn into? So I think you ended up writing about this, the aggressive attitude that kind of pervades this team that we haven't seen before on a big stage like this. And they have the talent and the work ethic to back it up. How about you?
Yeah, I really thought Notre Dame sort of outclassed Georgia today. I thought Notre Dame was the better team. Notre Dame outcoached Georgia. Notre Dame out-executed Georgia. Notre Dame wasn't pushed around. Certainly there were times where Georgia had success, of course, and Notre Dame wasn't able to have its success in some of the ways you'd hope in terms of running the football or even obviously passing for more than 90 yards.
Although they did more than double the rushing total of Georgia, but yeah.
But yeah, I mean, especially the way that Notre Dame's defense played, it was just a really good game. I thought Marcus Freeman had a great pulse on the game, seemed to make the right decision, including that brilliant punt to offense substitution, which helped Notre Dame bleed a lot of clock in the fourth quarter. And then on the other end, Kirby Smart tried to be aggressive at the end of the first half, and it bit him in the butt, and it led to Notre Dame's first and only offensive touchdown. So, something we have not seen, or I have not seen on this stage before in my time covering Notre Dame football since 2012.
Yeah, it reminded me a little bit of the Oklahoma game in 2012 when we were on the road, where we've seen that movie before, and then all of a sudden it had a different ending. And that's what tonight felt like. And the difference is I feel like there's more for this team to go get. That team kind of peaked in the Oklahoma game. They made it to the championship game, and then they got pushed off the stage. I think this one has a chance to go further. And it's interesting because all four of the teams that didn't get buys end up in the Final Four in the college football playoff semifinals. I'll also mention another takeaway, because you kind of gave me the idea, and I ended up writing about this, was how much the transfers influenced this game, how prominent they were in this. Jaden Harrison's 98-yard kickoff return, Bo Collins's touchdown catch, RJ Oben's first sack of the season, he forces a fumble, Mitch Jeter kicking 3 field goals out of 3, all of them more than 44 yards or more, and he kicked off. The two defensive backs, Rod Hurd and Jordan Clark, playing so well. And, of course, Riley Leonard just epitomizing the toughness of this team with his 14 carries for 80 yards, his 90 yards passing, but he didn't make any mistakes. And yet it was really interesting to talk to Jaden Harrison, because he was kind of prompted to say, well, aren't you proud of all these transfers? And he goes, I'm proud when anybody makes a play. He goes, we're all in this together. We need everybody. And I thought that was really kind of reflective of the culture that Marcus Freeman's built. I think people get tired of hearing the word culture because they hear it on TV so much. But I think when you think about real culture and how it makes a difference in a team getting to where this team is, going to Miami Gardens next Thursday, I think this is when you use that word, and it makes sense.
Yeah, it's not just that you bring talented players in the transfer portal. Like, you have to have a way that those guys can fit in, they can buy in, and that the players that they're joining buy into them and support them as well. And I think that has been on display for much of the season, but just like tonight felt like, wow, it's like every time you turn around, it's like, oh yeah, there's a guy from the transfer portal. There's a guy from the transfer portal.
Right.
And Notre Dame is not considered one of the teams that's like a transfer portal winner, right? I feel like more people are critical about Notre Dame's transfer portal ability in the transfer portal than they are complimentary. And to see that come through in such an obvious way tonight was pretty incredible. I mean, if you would have said that RJ Oben was going to have a strip sack that really brought Notre Dame into a significant amount of momentum, like no one would have predicted that. I mean, he hadn't had a sack since November of 2023. It is the last time he played for Duke. So that was quite the play there. And I thought the way the defensive line stepped up, moving away from the transfers, but Notre Dame's defensive line keeps taking hits, and they just keep stepping up, finding ways to rush the passer. Junior Tuihalamaka, I thought, played the best game of his career. He's been a unsung hero for Notre Dame's defense after being the third-string Viper coming into the season. Jalen Sneed was flying all over the place in some pass rush situations. Kingston Viliamuasa toughed it out and played, I think, about a dozen defensive snaps. So it was a whole team effort, certainly, in terms of getting pressure on Gunnar Stockton, but the Notre Dame's defensive front really stepped up tonight.
Yeah, the numbers in the rushing game, Notre Dame 154, which is well below their average, but Georgia only had 62. And Marcus Freeman is now 29-3 when he wins the rushing battle. He's faced as either a head coach or a defensive coordinator SEC teams 4 times and has won the rushing battle in all 4 of those. What did you think of Jeter tonight?
Yeah, just incredible. He was awesome. He was money. He nailed the 44-yarder in the second quarter. He hit the 48-yarder before halftime after being iced. And I asked him after the game, I was like, I noticed like a lot sometimes when an opposing coach calls timeout in the middle of a field goal kicker setting up for a field goal, like they'll have the ball snapped and they'll go ahead and take the kick. And Mitch was like, no, my mindset is I'm only going out there to do it right once. I'm not trying to make it twice. So he didn't go through with a kick there, and he nailed the one when it mattered, and then hit a 47-yarder later in the fourth quarter. So just this is what Notre Dame thought it was getting in the transfer portal. It didn't work out when he had his groin issue that bothered him so much throughout the season. He even performed kickoffs tonight for the first time since that Stanford game when he was hurt. And like, it's worth reminding folks how bad he had been in terms of percentage. He entered the game with the second worst field goal percentage in the FBS among those who qualify with enough kicks in games played this season. But tonight he was 3 for 3, and that was a huge part in Notre Dame's ability to cash in on some possessions where they weren't able to convert and finish them with touchdowns, but come away with points and keep putting Georgia in a deficit.
So let's talk a little bit more about special teams. Ross Dellinger, our Yahoo teammate, did a really nice story on Marty Biagi. Can you kind of give us the cliff notes of that?
I'll try to. Marty Biagi, his father recently passed away. He recently had
twins.
Birth of twins. His wife was apparently in the hospital recently. And so an emotional time for him, but Notre Dame special teams came up big. Jaden Harrison with the kick return. You mentioned that earlier. So yeah, I mean,
James Rendell punted well.
Obviously, Marty Biagi plays a role in Notre Dame's punt to offense substitution shenanigans that it pulled off. The special teams have had its issues, mostly with the field goal unit this season, but have they come through with a lot of important moments, whether it's fakes or other things, and got to be an incredible, meaningful night for Marty Biagi to have his special teams play such a significant role in Notre Dame's win tonight.
I know we both got peppered with, hey, what's the status of so-and-so? What's the status of so-and-so? I mean, it didn't come up in the press conference, none of the injury updates. That's something that we'll get the next time we talk to Marcus Freeman, whether that be Friday or Saturday. But what was your sense, I mean, of, I'll say Howard Cross and Jeremiah Love? Those seem to be the two that were, most concerned. Didn't Howard go back in or no?
I'm not 100% certain on that. Love was dealing with a right knee injury. He ended up with a brace back on his right knee. That's the knee that has been giving him some problems since the USC game. So we'll see what that means for Notre Dame and Jeremiah Love moving forward. Cross, I thought it looked like he got his ankle rolled up on, and that's also something he's been dealing with, an ankle issue throughout the season too. So they have guys that are really banged up. I mean, Rocco Spindler played with a banged up ankle. I don't think he was anywhere near 100%, but was able to stay in there. So yeah, Notre Dame is banged and bruised as it advances, but as we talked about earlier, like they just keep finding guys to step up, and the depth of this program is really shining.
Okay, let me give you a few rapid fires here. Who had the better offensive line tonight?
I guess Notre Dame. I don't know that Notre Dame's offensive line was significantly better than Georgia's offensive line, but I think Notre Dame's was better.
Okay. And then early thoughts on Penn State.
Penn
you haven't
State,
dug into them yet, but you've seen them.
Yeah, Penn State has been impressing me as the season has worn on. We talked about Penn State a lot this season because they were a team that we were debating whether or not Notre Dame should be ranked ahead of them. And I think since that, the way that it fought Oregon in the Big Ten championship game impressed me, and obviously has been on a roll here in the college football playoff. So we'll see. I don't know enough about like Penn State's injury situation. I think
Abdul Carter did not play in the Boise game.
Right, yeah, Abdul Carter. That's a major player for Penn State. So they're going to be dealing with the same issues that Notre Dame is dealing with, maybe to different extents. But certainly a game that you would think is winnable, right? I mean, it's hard to not say a game is winnable for Notre Dame because they really seem to have not just closed the gap in terms of talent with some of these top teams, but like you said, the culture, the belief, like it all seems to be there right now for Notre Dame, and it's incredible to think about that coming off of that Northern Illinois loss that everyone likes to talk to. We try to not revisit as much as everyone in the national media, but it is kind of crazy to see how far Notre Dame has come since then.
The way I see it, I think the worst, and I said this at the beginning of the playoff, I think the worst matchup remaining is Ohio State for Notre Dame in terms of what they do well and what Notre Dame doesn't do well. I think Texas is probably the team they match up the best against, and Penn State would be in the middle of those two. How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone's playing better than Ohio State right now. So I think that's fair. Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe I would put Texas above Penn State. I think Texas probably has more talent than Penn State does. And I think it's probably a little bit more battle tested now. It has lost some of its games. It lost its games against Georgia, but still count in terms of learning moments and understanding what it takes to win at this level. So,
okay,
this is. I mean, this feels like Penn State has gotten to where it's at by beating good teams, but now Penn State's going to have to beat a great team, and it hasn't done that this season. I think I think we're gonna learn a lot about whoever wins that game of what these guys are made of, and who has a chance to win versus the other side of the bracket, which I think people would probably think the national championship at this point is won by the other half of the bracket, but I think certainly anything can happen from here.
Okay. Anything else that you want to hit before we wrap this up?
I don't think so. I think that's it. I thank you for everyone watching. That's it for me in New Orleans, Eric in South Bend. Please hit the subscribe button and give us a like before you close out of this video if you haven't done so already. We want to hear your biggest takeaways from the game, so let us know in the comments. And we'll see you, as always, on Monday night for Football Never Sleeps.
Live chat Friday at noon. And, yeah, Football Never Sleeps Monday night. No matter what happens, we'll be on Monday night. But if Notre Dame wins its semifinal, we will not be on Monday night, January 20th, because we can't be doing it at the same time as the national championship game. Thanks, everybody.